What's going on, YouTube? I appreciate you being here. What's going on, Facebook? I got the double live stream. I have right here, this is one of those President Trump email blasts. I guess now that he's not on Twitter, he just sends off emails like a tweet. It's pretty funny sometimes. It's pretty good sometimes. It's pretty cringy sometimes. So I got the whole thing here. I'm going to read it, and I might even do it in a President Trump voice if I could try to be funny, because it just doesn't sound right if I read it in my voice. I'm going to try to sound like Trump. But he blasted Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci. So there's elements of this that I love, and there's elements of this that I don't like. I'll talk about it. And I do want to say while I'm coming in, I got a few things. First off, I see all the comments, the good, the bad. I appreciate it. I don't get in my feelings about it. But I saw someone coming in and say, "Why do you listen to this flip-flop artist?" And I'm like, instead of yapping, maybe you should just listen to what I'm saying, because I actually make sense. I'm not just hating on Trump randomly. I'm not like Joe Walsh going on CNN and I'm like, oh, I'm running for office. Like, no, that's not what I'm doing. I voted for Trump. I like him more than other people. He's still obviously a standout, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with everything that he says, especially when I spent the last year researching about PCR tests, the inventor, reading books, learning about what's going on, and really putting the pieces together and realizing that the leader that I was looking up to is just not cutting it. So, instead of yapping so much, which you can do, I don't mind. It's like, why don't you listen, tone the ego down, tone the mouth down, and just hear what I have to say. And in general, we're going to go through and analyze, Trump's email blast. So first off, I got a few things. I got one of these immunity shots I'm getting back. I'm not going to say the V word, but I'm not into pills. I'm not really into injecting things into my body. No offense. If you want to, that's fine. I don't want a passport, but I like these it's like a little citrus blast. You know what I'm saying? I like a little one of these. Woo! That's the type of stuff that just gets you feeling good. I'm the worst nightmare of the pharmacy industry, because I'm healthy. I'm not jacked up on pills all the time. I don't want their Adderall. I don't want to walk around and be like a walking zombie on a conveyor belt. So they hate me because I'm happy and healthy and not a total moron. So they'd rather people be out of shape on all these products, not questioning anything, not understanding how the liability works. So then in 10 years, you'll just be another statistic on a commercial. It's like, did you take this product? We told you that was safe. And you're like, yeah, of course I did. They're like, well, you may be liable to damages. It's like, what part of the television? People act like I'm crazy. Oh my goodness. How dare you say that? What are you reading? I'm like, every time I watch television, when's the last time you watched television and didn't see a commercial like that? Every commercial is pill, lawsuit, asbestos, this, that, all the products we used to use in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Everything that we told you was safe and really healthy actually wasn't, and you might have died or your family member might have died, so now you can sue. I don't know. Maybe I don't want my family to die for a couple bucks or whatever on a commercial. Maybe I pay attention. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I don't just say red team, blue team. I'm picking this guy. I'm sorry I have a brain of my own. Life is not binary, folks. It's not blue or red. Obviously, I vote one way for obvious reasons, like a lot of people here. But it's not like, oh, what can I have for breakfast? A waffle or a pancake? I'm sorry. I want an omelet today, so I make an omelet. Okay, I don't need to follow the rules. But also, I want to say before we start, and then I'm going to read it real quick. These hats are back, dreamrare.com, the God Bless hats, except they're Velcro, so it's actually a little easier for your head. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people did, whatever. They're a little bigger, I feel like. So a lot of people with big heads, my friend said, hey, doesn't fit or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. We got bigger hats, so hopefully you like them. It's a little different, but the same brand, same company, made in the USA. You get it pre-sale, dreamrare.com. Get it now. This is why I'm able to be here for multiple reasons. But, I'm spreading my seed, because you never know when they're going to take down one of my platforms. I'm hitting a little too close to home with their Reuters articles. Did Reuters just say that Johnson & Johnson knew that they had asbestos in their baby powder? I didn't say it. Reuters said it. So now you're telling me to take this new shot with no liability that's not FDA approved from a company that's still in court for a product that they gave to my family when they were younger, that they said was safe, that might not have been safe. It's so weird to me. I don't know. I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Like, whatever. You guys get it. Let's just get to the story. I don't want to bore you with, my talk. All right. So this is Trump's email. I got this and I saw it and I was like, okay, he's firing off at Fauci. And I have to say before I read it, Trump is a paradox. Like when I disagree with Trump or dislike what he's doing, I'm just a little disappointed in his like vaccine shilling. I'm disappointed and he keeps like lockdowns. I did it. It's like, it's just not for me, whatever. But I can acknowledge he's hilarious. He's still the funniest person I've ever heard in politics. And I could acknowledge it's not like everything is always bad. It's, it's not like good, bad. Some of this is spot on. Some of it, in my opinion, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? He's all over the place. He's like left, he's right. He's pro-freedom, he's pro-lockdown. He's anti-medical tyranny, he's pro-medical tyranny. It's like he goes through the Wizard of Oz, the whole road in this email. And I was just like blown away. But there's some gems and there's some cringies, but we're going to go through it. And I might even read it in my Trump voice because I don't know if I read it in my voice, it just doesn't seem right. So the office of Donald Trump, statement by President Donald J. Trump, 45th president of the United States of America. He comes right out firing. He says, based on their interviews, I felt it was time to speak up about Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, two self-promoters trying to reinvent history to cover for their bad instincts and faulty recommendations, which I, fortunately, almost always overturned. I agree with them sucking. I don't like Dr. Birx or Dr. Fauci. I think they're both phonies. They had bad policy decisions that would have left our country open to China and others, closed to reopening the economy, and years away from an approved vaccine, putting millions at risk. So, I agree with them. I think Fauci and Birx are phonies. I do agree with what he's saying. But when I keep reading, I'm going to get to it. His biggest beef with them is that they didn't rush the vaccine fast enough. He's bragging about being able to pressure the FDA. The FDA does not need to be pressured. The FDA, in my opinion, the CDC, they do not have a great track record. I don't think they're very ethical agencies in my personal perspective. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, I'm not blown away by their ethics. In fact, if you Google Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, bribery doctors, you could find them, articles in the Atlantic, bribing people in Nigeria, mainstream articles, settling with the Justice Department, like biggest settlement Pfizer. I mean, just Google this stuff. They have a crazy record of not being that ethical in my perspective and in the perspective of anybody who researches. But Trump is just like fanatical about being the person who rushed. He's like, without me, it wouldn't have been there for 4 years. And it's like, that's a good thing, dude. This whole lockdown is based on mass testing, which Trump put everywhere and bragged about. It's based off of how the PCR test is being used, which not a single Republican seems to be able to know. How come I'm able to figure it out? I'm reading the book of Carrie Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test. I'm learning how it works from the person who made it. And nobody in politics can do that. They're all just acting like this is normal to mass test asymptomatic cases with a PCR cycle test that if you spin it or cycle enough, you're going to find pretty much everything. I mean, this is in the words of the inventor. So how, on one hand, Trump's fighting Birx and Gates. On the other hand, he's doing everything they could possibly want. So let's read the second paragraph. We developed vaccines by an American president in record time, 9 months, which is saving the entire world. So Trump is saying he saved the entire world by rushing this vaccine. I'll just start it over. We developed American vaccines by an American president in record time, 9 months, which saved the entire world. We bought billions of dollars in vaccines and it calculated that they would work. Perhaps the most important bet in the history of the world. Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx moved far too slowly. If it were up to them, we'd currently be locked in our basements as our country suffered through a financial depression. I agree with that. Families and children in particular would be suffering the mental strains of this disaster like never before. So we'll stop at that paragraph real quick. I agree with him that it's good that he got people free, but he's acting as if this isn't already happening. Children are psychologically suffering, not just from the mask mandate, from the social isolation. It's happening across all 50 states. I've been to Florida. I've been to Texas. Some parts are open. Some parts are closed. Depends if you're in a liberal, conservative area, what corporation. I get it, but the country's a shell of what it once was. And he's acting as if like none of that matters because I was president and I stopped it all from happening. It's like, dude, people are still psychologically being abused to this day. And schools across the country, even in the great Republican states, are not fully open. We're being held captive by a lot of teachers' unions and corporations. And, it's not free, but it's okay. I get what you're saying. Let's move on. He said, in a fake interview last night on CNN, Dr. Fauci, who said he was an athlete in college but couldn't throw a baseball even close to home plate, it was a roller. Bro, he's hilarious. Tried to take credit for the vaccine when in fact he said it would take 3 to 5 years and probably longer to have it approved. Dr. Fauci was incapable of pressing the FDA to move it through faster. I was the one to get it done, and even the fake news media knows it and reports this. So, he's talking trash to Fauci. I love it. Fauci is, in my opinion, like a little weasel. No offense. He just looks like one. In general, he that's a word to describe a human as well, like a weaselly kind of guy. That's what he reminds me of. But anyway, he does suck at baseball, but this is like the magic of Trump because he's so funny. I'm like, man, that's really funny because I don't like Dr. Fauci and you're making fun of Dr. Fauci. So I should like what you're saying, but you're saying you wanted him to rush it through FDA approval faster. To me, this is a nightmare. And vaccine passports are coming to this country, or they're trying to bring them. Trump doesn't mention them. I'm going to go through it. He doesn't mention the vaccine passports at all. He's mentioning rushing the product that they're using and holding us ransom over and saying, I got it to you fast enough. And I know he did, but to me, that's not a good thing. I don't know. Maybe people think that's really good or something like, and I was talking to Chris Guy the other night. He made a good point where everybody thinks following orders is going to make us free. Just follow the mask mandate. We're going to be free. No, don't go anywhere. 15 days to slow the spread. We're going to be free. No, listen to the extension. We're going to be free. But it's actually the opposite. The more you comply, the more they throw on. They don't have metrics. They don't have a reason or a rhyme, like 2 weeks of masks and then it's all over. They keep extending it. So you wear the masks. It doesn't mean they're going to go away. It means now enough people are listening. They're just making it permanent. And then they say with the vaccines, as soon as the vaccine's available, we're going to be free because that's now, I guess, the planet we live on, that we're allowed to be held ransom for a couple months. And then they could rush a vaccine to emergency use authorization, and then they could threaten us to take it, even though it's not FDA approved. It has no liability. Anyway, that's the logic. Like, oh, now, and then the vaccine comes out. And of course, we're not free because that's not the game they're playing. It's loosely with the football. So this idea that everybody has, like, no, Trump had to rush the vaccines in order to make us free is the same thing as like, oh, we had to do a mask mandate to be free. That's not how it works. The more people that get the vaccine, 75% of seniors, I think Ron DeSantis says in Florida, now 75% of those seniors are going to turn to the 25% and be the mask Gestapo and say, you know what, well, I got the vaccine, so I don't really want you to be around me. I'm not comfortable with you guys here. The more people who get the vaccine, the more people who are going to probably be supportive of the vaccine passport, which is not just a vaccine passport, but it's really like a social credit score deterioration of anything free that we had in this country. Just like the lockdown was more than just a lockdown. It's like communism, socialism, trillions of dollars of loans, flattening the middle class. People say flattening the curve, flattening the middle class, flattening the lower class, flattening, the American dream. That's what it was flattening. But, I don't understand who this guy is. On one hand, he's like, I want to be free, but I'm pressuring the FDA. And he damn well knows what's going on in that industry. He tweeted about it before he was in president. He was very skeptical of big pharma. And then he gets in and just throws all that wisdom out the window and just says, oh, let's rush it. So I could be, held ransom over this thing, whatever. Let's keep going. He said, Dr. Fauci is also the king of flip-flops and moving the goalpost to make himself look good as possible. I agree with that. He said, he fought me so hard because he wanted to keep the country open to countries like China. I closed it against his strong recommendation, which saved many lives. So Trump is going by the narrative that closing down borders is like saving a bunch of lives. And I get that people like to think that because it's like a Trump thing. Like, oh, he closed down travel early to China, which he did. The media lied. Of course, Trump was earlier than they were. That's true. He was ahead of them in the closing. But I don't think closing travel from China and Europe, to me, that I don't think that's like necessarily a good thing in hindsight. I think that kind of launched the whole lockdown, but whatever. Then he says, I close it against his strong recommendation, which saved many lives. Dr. Fauci also said we don't need to wear masks. Then a few months later, he said we need to wear masks, and now 2 or 3 of them. Fauci spent U.S. money on the Wuhan lab in China, and we know now how that worked out, which is probably the best part of the whole thing because Fauci was funding gain in function back coronavirus research in China. This is, to me, the biggest bombshell story that no one's covering. Fauci and his little agency was funding Wuhan, the lab in China, manipulation of back coronaviruses to make them transmit into humans. If I were to say that to you, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, and Facebook tries to fact check it all the time. They have a whole Newsweek article about it. That's what Fauci was doing in Wuhan, spending taxpayer dollars to gain in function, manipulation of back coronaviruses to make a back coronavirus that can't go into humans. And the reasoning for it is, if we can do that, we can study for vaccines. But a lot of virologists at some of the top schools via that Newsweek article said, Fauci, This is not a good idea because you could create a virus that doesn't exist and hurt people. This is not my opinion. This is not a theory. Google, Newsweek, Fauci, Wuhan lab, bat coronavirus, and you could read the whole article. It's one of the best articles of last year. So Trump kind of points that out. But at a certain point, it's like, is anyone ever going to be held accountable? Pfizer, Moderna is a new company, but Johnson & Johnson, when they get held accountable, they just get a slap on the wrist. Here's a fine. With the vaccines, there is no fine because they have no liability. These people have been busted with crime and bribery and settlements and all sorts of stuff, that they at least settled out into and had to pay billions upon millions of dollars multiple times, depending which company you're talking about, just to be clear. And now they don't have liability for this vaccine. So why would they care? People are so dumb. People line up to get it. They don't care. They don't care that there's no liability. They don't care that despite what Jen Psaki says, or despite what Trump or Fauci says, or Pelosi says, that, how do you know long-term research? If you know so much, why is it not FDA approved? It's not FDA approved because they haven't spent enough time on it. You can't just FDA approve something in a couple months. So that's Trump's golden accomplishment in this article, saying, Fauci's a bum, which is true. I rushed him through FDA to get you the vaccine. The vaccine that's now being used against us via vaccine passport, and Trump doesn't mention it in the whole article. It's the biggest topic facing our society right now. Trump doesn't even care about. Either he's like a total phony or he just doesn't get what's going on. But it's like, this is why I talk about him. I'm not trying to be edgy or like, ooh, I'm turning on Trump. He just turned on the country. On one hand, he's a freedom fighter. On another hand, he's the most socialist communist president. Explain to me what the difference is last year between AOC, Bill Gates, and Donald Trump. Donald Trump did more for Moderna than Bill Gates did, and he's been backing them for years. Donald Trump did more for Pfizer, AstraZeneca, these companies, than anyone I've ever seen. He's the most vaccine president in our lifetime, and then also he's like the most pro-socialist communist president. I'm not saying it's his fault. I understand he helped open up earlier, but you can't convince me that we didn't lose more freedoms last year under Trump's presidency than under Obama, Bush, and Clinton combined, because we did. But people don't want to think that way. They think, well, he's really fighting for our freedom. He's fighting for our freedom by bragging about rushing this vaccine faster through FDA trials than Birx and Fauci. That means he's more pro-pharma, more bullish, crazier than the FDA. The FDA, in my opinion, is corrupt enough. They don't need to rush. They need to be more honest and take more time on these vaccines, especially when they have no liability. So that's our guy. That's not my guy. He did more to enslave me than he did to save me. But I guess I appreciate after he shut down that he threw me a bone or something. Let's read the rest of it. He said, Dr. Birx I love that he's talking trash to Dr. Birx, though. It's funny, but it's like at a certain point, it's like watching SpongeBob. Like if I want to laugh, I'll just watch SpongeBob. I don't need to watch like Trump act like a clown and just like be a goofball, but it is very funny. Dr. Birx is a proven liar with very little credibility left. I believe it. Many of her recommendations were viewed as pseudoscience, and Dr. Fauci would always talk negatively about her, and in fact, wouldn't ask to not be in the same room as her. Dude, Trump is like a gossip girl. It's really funny. I'm going to read that again because it's like TMZ Trump edition. He's talking trash to Fauci and Birx and like turning them against each other. It's funny when he's crushing it, but when he's not crushing it, it's like, bro, I'm going to read it again. He said, Dr. Birx is a proven liar with very little credibility left. Many of her recommendations were viewed as pseudoscience, and Dr. Fauci would always talk negatively about her and, in fact, would ask to not even be in the same room with her. The states who followed her lead, like California, had worse outcomes on COVID and ruined the lives of countless children because they couldn't go to school, ruined many businesses, and an untold number of Americans who were killed by the lockdowns themselves. Agreed. Dr. Birx was a terrible medical advisor, which is why I seldom followed her advice. Her motto should be, do as I say, not as I do. Who can forget when Dr. Birx gave a huge mandate to the people of our nation to not travel and then traveled a great distance to see her family for Thanksgiving, only to have them call the police and turn her in. She then embarrassingly asked for her to resign, or embarrassingly for her resigned. Finally, Dr. Birx says she can't hear very well, but I can. There was no very difficult phone call other than Dr. Birx's policies that would have led us directly into the COVID-caused depression. She was a very negative voice who didn't have the right answers. Time proving me correct. I only kept Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx on because they worked for the U.S. governments for so long. they're like a bad habit. So on one hand, it's really funny. I mean, there's no denying that Trump is the funniest president ever. He's one of the best tweeters ever. When he's on fire, I say he's a top 5 comedian in the country. I put him up there with Dave Chappelle. I find Trump really, really funny. There's no doubt. But it's like, he's like, I would have fired you, but it's like, so you didn't fire them. You locked down the country. You held the lockdown. You got mad at Georgia. He's trying to distort history, but Georgia actually opened up early. They opened up spas, tattoo parlors, and gyms and stuff like that. And Trump was actually on the side of Fauci and Birx. I know he likes to pretend like he wasn't, but he said, he was like reading a script and he's like, I don't agree with Georgia opening. You know, you should stay locked down against my guidelines. Trump was Mr. Communist for at least a month. And then after he opened up, he shifted right to vaccine sales, and he's been a vaccine salesman ever since. So, you know, I just think in general, if you're going to be the leader of the freedom movement, Trump has a bigger audience than anybody in the world. He's got a bigger platform, even deplatform, because he is who he is. So he kind of represents freedom, conservatism, nationalism. He's the guy. He's the big honcho. There's no denying it. Trump is Trump. He was the president. He did more and spoke out more than anybody we've ever seen. And he still puts conservatives in other countries to shame, like Canada and UK, where they might as well just be liberals. But there's also no denying that it's like, you know, in the heart of the American fight, when we really needed a nationalist, strong, conservative leader to protect the Constitution, you know, fend off a lot of these crazy medical policies, he did a 180, stopped talking about hydroxychloroquine, and started just, you know, shilling out these vaccines. And I just have to say this, I don't care if people get it or not, but none of this has been optional for me. If this was the flu shot, has anybody ever heard me talk about the flu shot? I don't talk about it because I don't care. I don't get the flu shot. If you want to get the flu shot, that's on you. Some people get it, they love it. Some people get it, they get the flu, they never get it again. Vice versa. Some people get the flu, they get afraid, and they get the flu shot. I've seen it all. I don't care. But I've never seen anything like March through now. They've totally transformed our society into some sort of digital 1984 Black Mirror episode where humanity gets enslaved, wears a mask or a muzzle, and gets like, completely demasculinized and completely dehumanized, where you can't even see people's faces and smiles. That still happens. And it's not just in California. I've been to Texas. I've been to other places. I've been to South Dakota. South Dakota was definitely the best place I've been by far with the masks and stuff. But you know, in Texas and Florida, most of the powerhouse in the economy is run by the liberals. So as much as you guys want to pretend like Florida and Texas are wide open because they're red, they're not. Most of your big cities are getting bluer and bluer and bluer. And the more the big cities go blue, the more the state goes blue. You've seen it happen with Georgia. You think you don't care about the cities. Well, we're red. We're red out in the rural areas, you know, and Atlanta's blue. Well, Atlanta ruined the election for you guys, you know, so one way or the other, it's going to matter eventually. You guys got to actually care about this, because if you can't keep a city, more people move there and they're doing funny business there. Doesn't matter what the rural, you're eventually going to get swallowed alive by these liberals. They're taking over everything. So the point I'm getting is, I'm not trying to be mean, but I try to like hold my ground, and I feel like people misconstrue it and say, oh my God, he's hating Trump. He wrote a song called I Like Trump. I like Trump. I stand by everything I said in that song. I do like Trump, but he's really annoying me now because he's just playing this role of like circus clown. And he really played the role of Trojan horse for communism. He came in 15 days to slow the spread, extended it, kept Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci on, put them center stage, listened to them, did everything that Bill Gates could have possibly wanted, rushed the FDA faster than Fauci, Birx, and Bill Gates actually wanted to. Bill Gates, in my opinion, is not an ethical guy. Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx are puppets, in my opinion. Even they don't have the audacity to try to rush the FDA, because the FDA doesn't need any help, with that type of stuff. Trump's rushing them to push this out faster, and now we have it. We're facing vaccine passports in a two-tiered society at Rutgers University, at Florida, at the Miami Heat game, and it's only going to expand. He doesn't say a word about it. He doesn't even care. And that's what I don't think people realize, because they like him so much. I don't think Trump is as connected to the people as you guys want to think. Clearly, he did more than George Bush or Obama, and he really connected with people. Trump was the realest president ever, no question. I'm not trying to take that away. But during this pandemic, I could tell he just, I don't know. It's like, you're definitely not really helping me that much. And What's the point of allowing Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci to ruin the country for 9 months, and then you schedule like a goofy / hilarious email a year later and say, oh, I would have fired you, but you were in government so long that I just didn't want to. It's like, that doesn't mean anything. You let them destroy the country. You helped destroy the country. You did more than a Democrat would have done for sure, and I'm grateful, but you're kind of rolling all this out. And I want to say this real quick too. In order to end this stuff, people need to do two things. And I talked to Chris Sky from Canada, that guy who's been all over the place, like not wearing a mask. And he made the best point that I've really heard recently, which is people think complying is how you end it. That's what the liberals and even a lot of the conservatives have been brainwashed, or at least they're thinking, well, just wear a mask for 2 weeks. And I like to ask the question, what's the metric? What is our goal? If we're going to wear masks for 2 weeks, first of all, how well do they work? What are the pros? What are the cons? How much do they slow the spread? And when you're all dirty and you put them on a table and your kids put them all over the place, and then you're putting a dirty, moisturized, heat dampened napkin cloth on your face, that's not healthy. I don't care how many pseudo intellectual morons in the health department agencies that just went through health school. I don't need their approval. They're not that smart. So I'm smart enough and I'm scientific enough to figure out what happens if there's a dirty, damp, moist napkin that's attached to my nose and my mouth for hours at a time. It's not healthy. It's dehumanizing. It has psychological and mental effects as well. It's a net negative on our country. The masks are a net negative. So all of that's going on. What's the metric? People think, wear the mask. For how long? No one knows. I ask when I go into a hotel or something, hey, wear the mask. Do you guys know when your company is going to stop doing this? What's the metric? What's our goal? What's your goal? What's the case rate? What do they want it to do? What's the death rate? I don't know. Do you have an end date? No, I don't have an end date. And I say, do you know why you don't have an end date? Because they're never going to stop doing this. It's not based off science or statistics. They have no goal. They've changed the goalposts, like Trump said, 50 times, from slow the spread for 15 days to extended lockdown because we don't want to overwhelm the hospitals. They know they can't stop COVID-19. They know that. They told us, they fed us the lie that if we comply for 30 days, that they will free up space in the Javits Center and they will bring in these ships and they will have more space just in case the hospitals were overcrowded. That was why we were trying to slow the spread. You can't stop the spread. They know that. They tried to slow it for hospitalizations. That was a lie. You know what they were really doing? What Trump was helping them do. Rush the vaccine as soon as possible, scare the crap out of everybody, destroy the middle class, treat you like a prisoner and slave, dehumanize you, demasculinize you, make you feel like a little prisoner and a little dog in a cage, scare you, ruin your life, and use all of that against you to rush it out when the springtime and summertime comes, when infectious diseases go down anyway. That's just a fact. To say, hey, we have this miracle product that has no liability, that's not FDA approved because it's been too fast, and you need to take it so you can go back to society. So that's the metric they were going for. And then you would think, even me in my craziest thoughts, because I'm not even this, like, I'm not a sick person, but I'm just saying in general, like, even the conspiracies I thought of 2 years ago weren't as sick as this. I didn't see this coming this quickly, this aggressively. I thought about it, but I didn't think that they'd be able to pull this off. But anyway, then I thought, even the sickest these people are, okay, you scared the crap out of everybody, you destroyed the middle class, you treated everybody like slaves and prisoners, you ruined 100,000 restaurants, all to get this product out there. And now that the product's out there, just let people go back to normal, right? You got the product and people can breathe air again. These people are so sick and deranged, they promised you if you get the vaccine, you'll be free again. And now they're saying if you get the vaccine, get 2 vaccines, you're still not free. You still should wear a mask. You still can get it. You still can transmit it. They don't know. If you look at the CDC director, that lady, Wolanski or whatever her name is, she's a psychopath. Are you kidding me? Have you seen a picture of her eyes? She's a full-blown psychopath. She makes AOC look like, Lao Tzu. Okay. It's like this lady's a psychopath. She's like, oh my God, impending doom. Even if there was impending doom, is that what a leader does? She's a fully blown psychopath, the CDC director. So these are the people that are leading you. They're not leading you anywhere. So the point I'm trying to get to make a long story short, is everybody thinks complying will make you free. If I follow the mask mandate, they'll let me go in a week. If I follow the spread, they'll open my business in a month. There were restaurants that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting up all this stupid plexiglass and all this crazy stuff just to justify what Gavin Newsom and all these other people said. And as soon as they built it all, Gavin Newsom moved the goalposts again. And to be honest, that's what you get for complying. That's what you get for trying to please people who can't be pleased. And that's what conservatives, I think, need to realize when they go with this theory that Trump is pleasing the left. You can't please people that are not based in reality. You can't please people that aren't honest. You give someone $5 and they say they want $100, and then they say they want $1,000. This is who these people are. There's no sense in pleasing them. Stop complying. The more you comply, the more they take. So anyway, people keep complying. Vaccine, this, that, and then it's like it's never going to end. So the point I'm getting to with all this stuff is, if Trump really was a freedom leader, he would get to the bottom of something or say, I disagree with vaccine passports. We need to stop with the mask mandates. He's not doing any of that. And all of this is based on counting cases. And we've talked about this since last March, but I even understand it more than I did in last March because I just common sense. I'm like, they're counting cases. They have all this mass testing. The more they test, the more you're going to find. The more you're going to find, the more they have it. If it's asymptomatic, that means that the more people are going to have it, even though they don't feel any symptoms, even though they feel healthy. And then I realized that they were counting cases months ago that didn't even have a positive test. They could give you a positive test. They say, have you been around somebody with COVID? Yeah. Do you have a cough? Yeah. Okay. Well, you have COVID. That's a real diagnosis. And I did a whole video on it. In certain states, they could give you a positive COVID test without even getting a test. So when you test this much, you're going to find this much. And the bombshell that I just figured out 2 months ago, I already kind of blew the lid on how they were mass testing and exaggerating about it, is the PCR test. What they're using to test is jamming up your nose as a PCR test. I'm reading the book. It's really funny by Kary Mullis, the inventor. A PCR test is not made for that. It's a test that it's not definite. It cycles, and every time it cycles, it times twos. So Kary Mullis, who invented it, he was a genius. He figured out, because no one else could figure this out, if he could do the right things, you could zoom in on a molecule, and it could go times two, times two, times two. So you have 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. What's that called? Exponential. It's exponential growth. So that's what the PCR test does. The more you cycle it, the more it zooms in. And Kary Mullis himself said, if you zoom in far enough, because they said, how do you misuse a PCR test? And Kary Mullis said, you can't misuse a PCR test, but you can lie about it. And he said, you can't misuse a PCR test. You're zooming in and you find things and it's all real. But he said, if you zoom in far enough, it makes you feel like a Buddhist because everything is inside of you. If you zoom in so far, you could probably find one of everything. And he was talking about HIV at the time, because that was another scandal that Fauci, orchestrated or was at the head of. So he said, you can't misuse it, but if you zoom in far enough, you could find one of anything, but that doesn't mean that means anything. He said, it's like if you have one apple, an apple's an apple. I'm going to do a whole video on it. He said, if you have this, it's not that definite. So he said, the PCR test does not tell you if you're sick or not. That's in the words of the founder. It zooms in. So how many cycles are they doing? 20, 40, 80, 100? They keep changing it. That's the scheme. That's the scam. They're using a test that doesn't test if you're sick or not. And they say, well, fact check. That's not true. Shut up, you liars at USA Today. Shut up, you phony shill losers in the science industry you didn't invent it. Okay. I'm spreading the word of the guy who made it. You couldn't make it. These people are not smart enough. They fact check, but they're not smart enough to create anything. They're only smart enough to destroy and to censor. So it's like the guy who invented it said it's not made to be used that way. And that's how it's being used right now. And he unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So he's not here to tell the tale of how his test is not made for that. So I will. So that's the point I'm getting to is if you have a leader like Trump who's leading the movement of freedom, he's not doing anything. He's not getting to the root of testing. He's not putting his foot down with the vaccines. He certainly is not putting his foot down with anything else. What's he doing? He's just putting on a show. He's telling you why he didn't do anything about Fauci when he was in office a year after he just let Fauci and Birx destroy the country. Now it's like a big, circus show, like, oh, I would have done something, but I decided not to. What? Oh man, that Dr. Fauci's such a loser. And I'm like, yeah. He's such a loser because he wouldn't pressure the FDA to go faster. What? You've got to be kidding me. And you see what's going on with AstraZeneca in other countries. I'm not quite sure the dynamic of that, if they're trying to smear AstraZeneca to push the other vaccines, or if it really is as crappy as they're saying. But Europe tends to have higher standards for food and drugs. In our country, like, some of the biggest crimes don't get charged. And in other countries, like the same crimes that happen in America, they get charged over in Europe. So although they're a little softer politically, they're not as conservative. They seem to not hate themselves as much when it comes to like food and drugs, where America, just like we have guns, like, which in my opinion is a good thing, where it's like we have like over 50% of the world's guns. It's a similar statistic. I don't know exactly what it is, but with pills, we're the most pilled out country in the world. I like the guns, but the pills and the guns are not a good combo. I think we should get rid of the pill thing and try to lower that down a little bit. But it's like they're doing all these studies saying, oh, most of them are obese. The deaths are like, yeah, duh. Like, this is all just a one big counting scheme that has been played on every level. And until somebody says that, I like DeSantis. DeSantis is not saying that. Trump's annoying me, but I like him. He's not saying it. Rand Paul's not saying it. Nobody's saying it. So what's the point? They're just little circus minstrels or whatever, doing a dance for you, just acting like they're doing something, but they're not getting to the root of anything, because the whole scheme is based off of all these things that I just told you. How they're testing, how they're exaggerating about it. It's all just a joke. And, the groups of people that are dying are elderly and obese. Those are the two main groups. Let's use our brains for a second. Okay, say pneumonia. This is so strange to me that I've never heard anybody else say this, because it's not that hard. Look at pneumonia, okay? It's not as, I don't think it's as viral, or it's not as, what's it called? It doesn't spread as much, but pneumonia is pretty bad. So if you get pneumonia when you're younger, what happens? Your survival rate's probably pretty high, in the 90s plus percentage, 99. I don't know what it is. I'm just guessing. And then if you're 90 or 80 or 70 and you get pneumonia, your survival chance is way lower. Find me a virus or a disease that your survival is better when you're older. I don't think there's that many, unless it targets like the youth or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, this virus really hurts the elderly worse. So does every virus, because when you're 95, it's a lot harder to recover from something like a pneumonia or a flu or a COVID. That's just how it works. I'm not, no disrespect to the grandmas and stuff, but everybody knows that. So it's like that, oh, well, and then when it all comes down to it, it's like, yeah, elderly people and obese people, those are the two groups for all viruses and all diseases that are going to be more at risk. And if you have comorbidities, you're always going to be more at risk. And if you're massively overweight, that's just the reality. You're putting more pressure on your body, and, things are going to wear down possibly the same way as like a car if you have too much going on there. So have you ever heard anyone say that? I'm not blowing people's mind with like, it didn't take me a year to come up with that. That's just me being an American being like, what? Okay, so the elderly have this percent. Yeah, so okay. So now we quarantine them and hide them from people, and it's all a sick game between that, how they're testing, asymptomatic, mass testing. Early on, I don't want to repeat myself that much, but early on, I haven't said this in like 6 months now. If you look up how many people get common cold in America, and I'm not comparing COVID to common cold, I'm just doing math right here. Common cold, tens of millions of people get it. So we only have 300 plus million people in the country. A lot of people get common cold. What is a couple tens of millions? I don't know if it's 50 million, 60 million, whatever. Out of that, if you die with common cold, they would say if they were doing COVID, you died from common cold. But the thing is, nobody's testing for common cold. Nobody really tests for the flu. I've had the flu 3 times in my life. I've never been tested for the flu. Never. I was tested for strep throat. And if I don't have strep throat, you have the flu. Do they know I have the flu? I don't think they really care. Just take some antibiotics and go home, go away. So the point I'm getting to is, if you did the same thing with the common cold, even though we know it's not that deadly, and I'm not saying this isn't deadly, I'm just saying, you put common cold tests everywhere, test. You go here, test. You go to work, test. You get on a plane, test. You test enough, you're going to find it. You find enough, people are going to die. People are going to die. Percentage-wise, it's all statistics, which is why everyone, if you want to know this stuff, read the book, How to Lie with Statistics. Bill Gates recommended it. I read it last year. The whole book is from the 40s or 50s. It's all about how the media, the medical industry, the pharmacy industry, government agencies, and everybody on the planet lies with statistics, how to do it. It goes through every scheme, every counting scheme. It even talks about polio. It even in the book that Bill Gates recommended questioned the polio vaccine. I'm not questioning it. I know that's an offense that you can't do because I wasn't even alive for that, so I don't really know. But the book that Bill Gates recommended pretty much questioned the rollout of the statistics during polio and said, they said that this caused this, but he showed all the other factors and said, but this also happened. They weren't calculating this. And that's what they do. They know they're doing it. And Bill Gates told people, read this book. It's his blueprint. That's all they're doing. It's like all they have to do is one trial, efficacy trial. Okay, 30,000 people are tested. Well, here's the thing. How many people were in this age bracket? How many people were in this age bracket? How many people had comorbidities? How many people were obese? How many people were younger? Nobody asks those questions because our society's really dumb. They'll just be like, oh, wow, it's 95% efficient. Says who? Says what? Who was in the study? What were their age groups? What was the placebo? What was, if you look at the Moderna trials, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like out of the people who didn't have it, the numbers of people that were getting sick were wildly low, wildly low. None of this is justified. None of it. Trump's Operation Warp Speed is not justified. 15 days to slow the spread was not justified. Trump going along with Birx and Fauci to extend the lockdown past 15 days wasn't justified. Him questioning Georgia for opening wasn't justified. Him bad-mouthing Sweden for staying open wasn't justified. None of this is justified. None of these restrictions are justified. And I've said since last May to just fully open up. And when it comes to how to lie with statistics, I was arguing with this guy on Twitter today, Nuance Bro, who's really not nearly as smart as he thinks he is. We had a debate last May, and he was bringing up these New York Times graphs. He still doesn't understand because he's not that bright of a guy, but I'm going to explain to you guys. And if you have half a brain, I think you'll be able to follow me. He's working on it. He'll get there someday. But they had these graphs in New York Times, and they were showing death rates in Germany, they were showing death rates in France and death rates in the UK and death rates in the US. And he showed me this graph and said, this proves that so many people are dying from COVID, way more than in normal years. And I found the obvious lie with the statistic in the graph, and I pointed him out. So I'll give you an example. If we're measuring how healthy we are, and I say 20 to 40, we're studying the ages 20 to 40. That's not how these graphs work. Some of the graphs were 10 years long. Some of the graphs were 1 year long. Some of the graphs were 20 years long. Some of the graphs had cities. Some of the graphs had entire countries. And I told him, bro, this is an obvious deception because if you're measuring 20 people, you have to do the same timeline or else you're cheating. It's like 20 to 40, 20 to 40, 20. You can't go, for Anomaly, we're going to measure his health from 20 to 40. And for Nuance Bro, we're going to measure his health from 20 to 21. You get what I'm saying? That's an obvious deception is they're crafting the charts to look how they want. And if one of them shows, inconvenient data, they cut it short. You can't have a study of 20 different countries where they all have different timelines. It's so obvious. And he couldn't understand that because he's a moron. But, he thinks he's really smart on Twitter. He's like, I'm getting my second Moderna dose because I understand the science. I'm like, bro, do yourself a favor and read How to Lie with Statistics, okay? You'll do yourself a favor. But in general, I'm just trying to tell people because the more you understand about that, you can catch these little tricks and traps they do. One of them last year was, I don't want to say the word, but the drug that they were trying to compete with the vaccines was a study. And the study was being done by Langone University, and it was being funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the same guy that has financial interests and just spent billions of dollars on multiple vaccine companies, he's also funding the study against the drug that he's trying to cut out. Because if ended up being approved for COVID, none of the vaccines could have been approved. And that's the big scandal that you're never going to hear anywhere else. The reason Trump shut up about the hydroxy, and the reason they shut him up and the reason he followed was because they probably told him behind closed doors, if that goes through, we can't emergency use authorize these vaccines. And Bill Gates with Langone University were the ones who were, oh no, look, hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. The placebo is it was a vitamin. I was like, how is that a placebo? So the whole thing was a scam. But if they would have been able to prove that there was another drug available, none of these vaccines are FDA approved. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is no tinfoil hat. This is FDA.gov website. I've proved it, and you can find it on exposedlockdowns.com. I have all the info on the FDA website. These vaccines are not FDA approved. They're emergency use authorized. And in order to emergency use authorize something, you have to prove there's no other drugs available that are safe and approved. So if the drug that Trump was talking about would have worked, none of the Pfizer, the Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson would have had to wait probably 4 years in order to get FDA approved because they wouldn't have been able to emergency use authorize it. And that's why Trump is a phony. I know he knows this stuff. He's not a moron, unless you think he's dumb. I don't think he's dumb. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And I think he chose big pharma. I think he chose the wrong side. And now he's trying to dance into a clown act and show everybody how funny he is. I would have fired Fauci, but I decided not to. Then you're a moron, because this is not a little thing. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but to the people who've been telling me for months, like, anomaly, it's just a small thing. It's not a small thing. It's not like, oh, Trump pooped his pants, okay? And I'm like making fun of him. Like, okay, he pooped his pants, clean up, go back. You and Pence, we could talk about it. It's not a little thing. He shut the country down. Communism, medical tyranny. Like, this is the slave movement of the modern era. And I don't use that word lightly. Look up what the word enslave means. It means what's happening. So they're taking away our freedom. They're taking away our rights. They're taking away our access to places. They're taking away our travel. And it's becoming like a Black Mirror episode, which is like a 1984 style documentary series. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where it's like this horror movie where like computers take over and like, oh my God, technology is so crazy. It's like, this is like a mainstream sort of thing. Like, yeah, that's what's happening. And no, it's not based off data. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm willing to debate somebody, but I don't think they want to talk to me, because everything I just said there, I've never heard them say. Like, when they're he's a conspiracy theory, that like Nuance Bro, like, he does conspiracy theories. It's like, bro, you can touch what I just said. Like, what? It's not a theory. This is all backed up. Like, what are you talking? Like, I'm getting my second dose today. You should get it. It's like, stay away with me with your needles, weirdo. It's like, if you want them, that's fine. But these are the type of people that in a month are going to be like, oh, everybody needs one like me. If you don't have one, you're making me feel unhealthy. I feel unhealthy because you're healthy. You need to get it to come to school. If you don't get it, you can't go to the Miami Heat game. Like, this is what these people are going to do. So I'm swatting them away like flies now. Get away from me. By the way, new white hats, God bless, dreamrare.com. You already get it. I'm saying pre-sale, whatever. I'm not trying to advertise right now, but the kids got to make a living. Clearly, I'm not getting the My Pillow money. 66% off. Trump's going to be in office in August. 66% off my pillows. I do want to buy a pillow and do a pillow review, though, and see if it's actually good or not, but whatever. Someone said my son will debate with you. Bring him in the live stream. We'll see what happens. But that's it for today. I don't want to stay too long because I really want to work the rest of the night to do a video on Kary Mullis. I'm reading his book right now. I don't want to spoil it, but Kary Mullis invented the PCR test. His book, I'll plug it because I've been plugging a lot of books. It's called Dancing Naked in the Minefield. Not Minefield, but Minefield. He was a surfer. He did like LSD. I mean, the guy's kind of weirdo, but at the same time, super smart dude, super funny dude, like just like down to earth. Like he invented the PCR test. His book is hilarious. He's super, super funny. But I'm going to do a 4 facts that people don't know about Kary Mullis, and I'm going to put it out, I think, tomorrow, because I want the world to see the guy who created the thing that they're jamming up their nose, because he was far superior to the scientists that Fauci and Birx were. These people are bureaucrats. Like, do you think the Wolanski or whatever her name is, do you guys want me to print out a picture of her? She looks like a total psychopath. I'll do it because, I could double task. I got a printer here. I'm going to print out a picture of this lady because this is our CDC director. You tell me if you trust this lady. Oh my goodness. She's scary. All right. I'm going to save image. I'm going to print it out. And for comedic effect, I'm going to just show it in a second, but what a nightmare this woman is. All right. Let me see. Save image as. All right. Let's save the image. Let's not play around here. All right, let's see. Print. Can I print while I'm live? I've never really tried it. Hopefully I don't ruin the live stream. I think I can handle it. I feel like I'm back in school. Okay, print. All right, we got it. We'll see what happens. I'll show you a picture of her face because I want you to like study who these people are that are making these rules and ask yourself, did this person invent the PCR test? No. Did this person discover DNA? No. What has this person done? Probably the same thing that Kamala Harris has done, just, I don't even know, just sucked her soul out and then just rode her way to the top. Not literally rode on top like men. I'm saying rode her way to the top as far as like, just doing whatever the lobbyist class, whatever these people wanted to do. I'm not trying to be inappropriate. I'm just saying. All right, it's printing out. So someone said, I thought Trump did fire Fauci. No, he didn't fire Fauci. And this is, I'm trying to be nice because I got all these streams and I know people don't watch all my stuff, but like anybody that has watched a lot of my stuff, I've been telling people this for a year now. And everybody's like, I thought Trump fired Fauci. You were wrong. I thought Trump never was for the lockdown. He just pretends like he was. He plays both sides of the fence. Like I don't like to repeat myself because I've already proved it like 1,000 times, but I feel like I'm in this echo chamber of like, well, I thought Trump was against it the whole time. Well, you were wrong. Oh, I thought he was fighting socialism. No, he wasn't, but whatever. All right, this is the CDC director, okay? Are you serious? What does that say to you? Impending doom. Impending doom. There's impending doom. Oh my God. Lady, you're scaring the crap out of people, you psychopath. Look at her eyes. You're scaring people purposely. Fear is not good for your body. Google negative health effects to fear. Fear and stress is not good. You look like you got so much stress, you make AOC look like Lao Tzu. AOC looks like Eckhart Tolle. She's going to write a book about spirituality and mindset. Look. She got them AOC eyes. It's even worse. Whoa. Oh. Do you trust this lady? Because I certainly don't. And that's who's watching over my health. A lady who says impending doom. I think this lady's such a psychopath that she actually believes that. Like Bill Gates, like he's not a moron. This lady's such a psychopath with no soul. I think she actually believes herself. Like, what impending doom? What are you talking about? So what's the point of destroying everything for a year and then giving everyone a vaccine just so you could sit on TV with cracked out eyes and scream impending doom? There's a special place for people like this, and it's not heaven. And before somebody calls me the S word, you could read it. There's two parts of Revelation about people like this. I'm not going to say what, but it's in the Bible. Okay. All right. Let me see. Baller said, "Do you think she was forewarning about another virus?" I don't know what she's doing. These people are psycho. But this is all I can say is until people put their foot down, this is never going to end. People are too submissive. On the left, people are just like full-blown muzzled animals. On the right, people are so fanatically obsessed with Trump, they don't even want to pretend like this is happening. They're like, Texas is free. It's not free. I was just there. It's the liberal cities are not free. I get that certain areas of the country are free, but Dallas used to be red. It's not red anymore. It's blue. It's all being taken over. So either you put your foot down and stop it, or you just pretend like you're winning because you like Trump or something. It's not going to work. This is not sustainable. Our country's not open, but we can open it if you put your foot down and say enough is enough. But it's like the right, it's like they get more mad at me for saying this than they do the fact that it happened. Trump brought communism. I know that hurts people's feelings, but he did. And that alone, that I just said that Trump brought communism because he did, triggers more conservatives than the fact that communism was brought last year. So what does that tell you when you have a freedom movement with a freedom leader who's not only not preserving freedom, he gave up more freedom than ever, allowed Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci to ruin the country, put out a clowny, email a year later, and then is rushing a vaccine faster than Bill Gates and Fauci combined and bragging about pushing the FDA to go faster. Not that at a certain point, I don't even know if that's legal. You're not supposed to pressure, the Food and Drug Administration. They're going through a process to make sure, or they're supposed to make sure that people don't kill themselves with the product. That's why they're doing that. So you're rushing them. Trump is a traitor to this country. He's not only not a freedom fighter, he's a traitor. He's rushing an already unethical agency to try to move faster when the last thing they need to do with vaccines is move faster. They need to move slower and be more honest and make their data, their real data available to the public. He's a traitor. So you got everybody following this guy, and then they don't want to admit that it even happened. Of course this is going to happen. Now we have crazy like CDC directors, but our country is just totally demoralized and run by psychos who hate us. But it's not over. I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm just saying put your foot down. I'm trying to light a fire under people. And I know people get upset, but I've also gotten a lot of messages. Anomaly, you inspired me to put my foot down. You inspired me to say no, and it worked out really well. And this and this, you know, Anomaly, someone yesterday said they had multiple sclerosis. They lost like 20 pounds working out and stuff. That's the type of stuff I want to hear. I know some people don't want to hear it, but I don't care. Okay. This is like such softy land. It's like, you don't want to hear me on a live stream. What about your ancestors who had to fight in like World War I? It's like, we're such a soft generation where even the conservatives are soft. It's so soft that I'm somehow a strong leader. I'm not supposed to be a strong leader. You look at me, I have long hair. I was just rapping and stuff like, oh, he's just a rapper. Yeah, I know. I got disturbed by what was going on and I just started speaking out. And now this year I'm blown away by the side of politics that's supposed to stand up for something, stands for nothing, nothing. And someone said, I'm tired of the same conversation. Then take a nap. If you're tired, take a nap. If you don't want to be here, it's fine. It comes up. But I'm tired of what's going on in the country. I'm tired of a year passing and it's worse than it was at the beginning. Does that not bother you? No, it doesn't bother. It's crazy. I mean, I enjoy my life off camera. Don't get me wrong. I don't just cry all day, but I'm just saying it's like you're bothered that I'm saying the same thing because our country's in a worse position it was in May. We were more free in May and June. And it's only getting worse because no one will put, well, I'm annoyed that there's like one person that talks about it. I'm going to go watch David Harris Jr. and the Hodge twins talk about nothing. And no offense to David Harris Jr. and the Hodge twins. I like them both. But it's like, what are the conservatives talking about? They're not talking about crap. They know nothing about PCR tests. They know nothing about mass testing. They suck off Trump. No offense, but, you know, they suck on Trump's coattails. And then won't even acknowledge that he's the one pushing the vaccine faster than the FDA and Fauci. So what are they accomplishing? You want to hear something different? Go watch one of these other people because they're not doing crap. And I'm not trying to be mean or rude to them, but honestly, I don't really care anymore. I'm so underwhelmed by all these conservatives who act so tough and act so macho and act so pro-freedom, and they don't care about anything. They can't conserve anything except for their own identity. It's like, what about CPAC this year? Oh, CPAC, the conservative event in Florida. Florida's free. It's not free. They put everybody in muzzles. Oh, I'm going to go to CPAC and wear a mask on my face. And, oh, I'm wearing a mask at CPAC so I could meet Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz. It's like, okay, what are you conserving? Your own like selfie on Instagram? You're not conserving freedom. You're not conserving the First Amendment. Take the mask off, you disgusting animal. No offense, but you look like a dog. It's pathetic. Don't you have any respect for yourself? These people just want to be liked by the right wing. They can't even conserve anything. We're being treated like slaves. So I'm sorry you don't want to hear that, but until people leave me alone, you're going to have to hear it a little bit. I apologize. It's like, at what point do you, well, now the vaccine passports are going, and the leader of the country that you'd probably rather hear, Donald J. Trump, is shilling for the things that are being used against us and not saying a single word about vaccine passports. Do you know why? Hard truth coming in. Hold on, guys. I know it's going to hurt your feelings. He doesn't care about you. He sold you out, and he brought all of this crap here, and he's completely unapologetic about it, and he has yet to do anything impressive or real this year that helps the American people. Trump doesn't care about you. Trump brought communism. Trump was awesome for 3 years and turned into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bill Gates on domestic policy and brought socialism, communism, medical tyranny, and mass vaccinations and vaccine passports. And he doesn't give a crap about you now that it's all here. He doesn't even have a second to type about it and say, oh, I don't agree with the vaccine passports. You know why? Because he doesn't give a shit. He wants credit for the vaccines that are being used against you. I know it hurts so bad. You know what hurts my feelings? America being a slave state, ruining the greatest country in the world. So, you know, spare your uncomfort for the hard truth. But I'm uncomfortable with all this bullshit that's happening. Excuse me. All right, I got 2 more minutes. I'm going to work on my Carrie Mullis video. It's going to be a lot calmer, good information, and everybody's going to need to see it because until people get to the video, the bottom of mass testing and tracing and ventilators and all this stuff that they're pushing, it's not going to end. And, you know, we'll answer some questions, but it's like, at what point do people get it? People in March, it's going to end in May. Oh, Trump's rushing the vaccine so we could be free. He's giving us the freedom vaccine. Yeah, no, it's not. It works the opposite way. The more you do, the more they take. Stop taking it. Stop making excuses for it. Someone said mandated vaccine isn't going to work well with this one, just saying it. Well, here's the flip side. I mean, I'm optimistic, but the more people that get vaccinated. So say Ron DeSantis, right? He's a big freedom fighter. He's fighting the vaccine passports. Cool. I like Ron DeSantis. He's vaccinating 75% of seniors. What do you think is going to happen psychologically when you give all of these seniors vaccinations? Why are they taking them? Because they think that that's the be all end all cure, even though they're already saying it's not. So now when more than half the population is vaccinated, it's the same thing with the mask mandate. They're going to demand that you don't go places. So now when you turn around and you're like, where are my allies? Your allies don't exist because half of them got vaccinated and they, quite frankly, probably don't care. They got it. So they're like, why don't you just get it? I don't understand what the big deal is. You get the vaccine and we'll be free. They've conditioned people with the masks, and now they're doing the same thing with the vaccine. So on one hand, yeah, it might not work out so well. On another hand, the American people and the people of this world, the Western world, are pathetic. Who's going to stop them? You didn't stop them during 15 days to slow the spread. You can't stop the mask mandate. Trump's not saying anything. DeSantis isn't doing anything about corporations, barely. No one wants to put their foot down and say, this is human slavery. My people will not be treated like an animal. This is slavery. Stop this crap. They're not so, who's afraid? No one's afraid of you. They're vaccinating. DeSantis, vaccine. Abbott, Texas, red, vaccines. Oh, my population is getting vaccinated. Trump, vaccines. And in a couple months, you'll have probably half the population vaccinated. And they're not going to care about you. And they're going to turn against you, just like the mask people do. So maybe, it won't go over well. Maybe it will go over well because we're a movement of pushovers. It's not just the left. The left is the left. I don't know what they're doing. They're not helping me. I'm not saying they're not complicit. I think they are, but we're losing because the right isn't as tough as they say they are. The right acts so tough, but it's filled with a bunch of people who just lie to you. They put on a cowboy hat. They suck up money from big pharma or, multi-billionaire donors who probably care about Israel more than America and pass speech laws to say that you can't say that under the guise of hate speech when it's not. It's just a fact. And then you wonder why you're not winning anything. It's because none of these people that act like they care about you, you're attached to the personalities of people who don't give a shit about you. And they've made it so obvious. Like 2 years ago, I'm like, no, Trump's killing it, okay? Abbott's doing okay. And then they went the human slavery route and the medical tyranny route, and not a single one of them flinched. The only ones who flinched, DeSantis, Noam, and Rand Paul a little bit, but they're all still mass pushing the vaccine. Not a single one of them will say, they're not liable. Not a single one of them will say they're not FDA approved. They're all vaccinating your elders. They're all vaccinating everybody, which in a perfect world, I wouldn't care about. But when they're jamming a vaccine passport and lockdowns and quarantines down my throat, now I care because it's like being weaponized against me. And none of them have the balls to say it, so hopefully it'll be okay. But I mean, I feel like I've been hearing that in since May, June, as I remember, like, I talked to Chris Sky, the guy from Canada who's been going viral. If everybody acted like me and Chris, I'm not like bragging, like, oh, it's all about me. But if everybody acted like me, Chris, Ian Smith, it would have been over. Half my audience, people who do stuff. It's over when you say it's over. But everybody, maybe Trump will do things for me. I'm waiting for Trump. It's like, dude, who cares what he's saying? He's just tweeting articles about, or email blasts about how he would have done something about Fauci and Birx, but he decided not to. Yeah, what a revolutionary sentence here. He said, man, I only kept Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx on because they worked for the U.S. government for so long. They're like a bad habit. Yeah, the only reason I kept them is because they were just here for so long. So I figured, I'll just leave them here and destroy the country, and then I'll just make a funny article. It's like, who cares? Who cares? Someone said, I hope you have an Odyssey account because YouTube is going to shut you down. I don't care. I don't use Odyssey. I have other stuff, but I'm fine. Honestly, I fact check a lot of what I say, so I don't know what they're really going to do about it. It's like they can't fact check it. It's factual. All right. 2 more minutes and I got to go. I got to make this video. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. Someone said, let me see, not just Trump, but all the conservatives with him are in the wrong. I don't know. And I'm not trying to be mean to David Harris and Hodge twins. I like them. I've met David. He's a nice guy. I've never met the Hodge twins, but they're funny. I appreciate everyone. And I know that I think the Hodge twins are going hard at Fauci and stuff, but I'm just like at a certain point, and I don't even know what they're doing. So I don't mean to speak on them, but I'm like, I don't know what all these conservative influencers do. No one's getting to the bottom of anything, and no one wants to call out Trump. So the reason I say it, I'm not trying to like harp on it, but you have a whole movement of people who wear Trump hats, who swing Trump flags. Their leader is Trump. Their idol is Trump. The leader of their army is Trump. They're all following Trump. They're all waiting on his orders. If he says jump, they say how high. If he says border, they say border. Trump is the leader. It's like George Washington was leader. Trump's the leader, and he's not doing shit, and nobody wants to say it. They're just following along. So I'm trying to just ruffle up people's feathers a little bit, not to be mean, but they're not stupid people. It's like at a certain point, you got to do something, or you have to say something, and you have to call out your own side, or else you're just as complicit. I don't think it's just the left that's complicit. I think Trump is just as complicit as the left. He handed over and just was like, here, Newsom, Murphy, Cuomo, we're getting along. Here's the ventilators. Oh, they love me. They love me. Oh my God, I'm so likable. Oh man, even they like me. They like you because you're giving them power and you're saying nothing about it, and you're not challenging it with your executive authority to not do all this stuff. He didn't have to go along with all of it, but he did. And then he just writes stupid emails and people love it. It's like a big game for everybody. To me, people are traitors. I'm just going to be honest. I think it's just straight traitorism. You just gave up on your own country at crunch time, let it cave to communism, and you care more about someone's personality and a cult-like allegiance to a following than you do about the Constitution, the First Amendment, and everything that made this country great. The free market, anti-socialism, anti-communism, all that got wiped away, not this year, but last year. That's why, Biden sucks, okay? Biden's staff is like Trump's staff, except 100 times worse. Biden, it's like everybody that Trump had like pretended like they were likable, but they were all just doing the same crap. Biden's staff is like insane. Rachel Levine, it's like, oh, health director Rachel Levine, like he just literally brought in a nightmare. He's like, let me replace all of Trump's people with nightmares. But in a way, and I still stick to this, it's good because people needed a wake-up call. Under Trump, they weren't willing to feel like any of this was bad. Oh, Jerome Adams is so great. What was he, the Surgeon General? He was a phony, okay? Just because he has a red, he's a black Surgeon General, Republican. Wow, we're so not racist. Us, it's like, it doesn't matter what race he is. He's a phony, okay? It's like, oh, we're so happy to have a black Republican on our side, and he's really well-spoken. It's like, but he's a liar. So now you have Rachel Levine or, Wolanski, all these people that are weirdos, but at least you know who they are, rather than have a bunch of people you think are on your side that are not doing anything. So, in a way, I was hoping that this would, spark people being like, oh, okay, yeah, we have to do something. But I don't know. Would I talk to Trump Jr.? Of course. I added him on Twitter today. He said, oh my God, this is communist Chinese styles. And I'm like, bro, your dad locked the country down. They're just playing a game. Oh man, this is communist. So was when your dad locked the country down. It's like, oh man, China's coming to town. Such a joke, whatever. All right. Someone said, I don't agree with what you're saying, but keep swinging in all directions and you'll end up with nobody. I don't know. Having 3,000 people live doesn't seem like nobody. I'm getting like 4 million views a week, literally like 800, 900,000, people watching on Instagram. I'm not trying to use a mean word, but not everybody's as soft and pathetic as some of you. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like some people want an actual man, an actual leader to not be a total pussy. I'm sorry I said pussy if your kids are watching, but it's like, it's actually much more popular than you think. Like nobody wants a little weakling. Like, I mean, if you keep being so strong, nobody's gonna want to listen. Like, no, actually the opposite is true. It's like now I'm getting more views. Like I don't need to ride coattails in order to get views. Oh, well, I know I'm a phony. I know I'm selling out the First Amendment communism. I know this is like totally not free market, but if I have a TPUSA pin on, maybe people will think. It doesn't matter if you have a TPUSA pin on because there is no free market anymore because it's not free. A free market means open commerce. We don't have that, and we haven't had that for a year now. So it doesn't matter if you have a pin. I don't need to ride coattails. Even if I did, I would go out like a legend, but I'm just getting more popular. And it's not about popularity, but no, being an actual stand-up citizen is not hurting my reach at all. It's not. And if it did, I don't really care. But there's way more people than you realize who don't want weakness. Who wants to be treated like a slave for the rest of your life? Do you not have any respect for yourself? Like, when I was talking to Chris Sky, Like, we're the type of people, we can't not do it. I don't even know what it's like to be that big of a pussy. No offense, but it's like, I don't know. I can't relate. I don't get disrespected like that. You know, people don't come up to me and throw a dog muzzle on my face. I'm not a slave. I'm not an animal. I'm not going to act like one. I don't care if it's Trump doing it. I don't care if it's Biden doing it. I don't care if it's Obama. I don't care if it's Bush. I'm a citizen. I'm a supporter. I vote for the Republican Party most of the time now in my later years, but that doesn't mean I'm Trump's, little minion. It's like, you earn my support by being a great leader. Once you're not a great leader, you don't earn my support anymore. My support is earned. It's not a religion. I praise Christ. I pray to God, to Jesus Christ. I don't pray to Donald Trump. He's not my Messiah. So like any worker, I vote for him if he doesn't do a good job. If he doesn't do a good job, I don't have to vote for him. So, that's his role. Just like my role is, if I do good work, you should watch my channel. If I suck, don't watch my channel. It's like, you shouldn't watch my videos if they suck. But unfortunately, for the people who wish that my audience would shrink because of what I'm saying, I make fantastic videos and I'm only getting better. So as much as you want to hate my live streams, I'm going to make a kick-ass video about Carrie Mullins tomorrow that nobody else is making, and it's going to get 600,000 views and everyone's going to love it. So, the second I stop making good videos, nobody's going to want to listen to me, and no one should. It's not like you should, oh man, Anomaly sucks and he doesn't do anything. Then click the X button. You're not going to hurt my feelings. It's the same with Trump. He's not a god, and it's okay to just stand your ground. If everyone just said no, it would have been over. That's it. But whatever. And I want to say this too. Like, I know some things might sound a little harsh, and I like to make jokes, so I like to be funny rather than passionate. But if you look at World War I and you look at the Bolshevik Revolution, and I mean, you look at slavery, you go back, to all the crazy things that happen in this world. They've always happened. Genocide, slavery, mass murder. We lived in a very fortunate time, and I am not trying to scare people. I'm just being honest. I'm grateful for what I have, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can, because I don't want my country and my family to get hurt. But in World War I, millions of people got murdered. And in World War II, millions of people got murdered. If you count all the opioid deaths and heart disease deaths from all this bullshit food that they're feeding everybody, you probably have a genocide right there, just in all the crappy products they've been selling to the American people and killing off people with all these crappy drugs and products. But in general, it's like, we might be facing that again. I'm not trying to scare people, but there's some sick people running our country. The media hates us. The directors of these agencies hate the people of our country. They don't care about you. They don't like you. They're pushing a dehumanizing thing. And how does genocide happen? First, you dehumanize people. First, they start with white people, where it's like, you can't even like yourself. So if you're black and proud. If you're this and proud. If you're white, you have to be sorry, because you can't actually love yourself, or else you're a white supremacist. You dehumanize an entire race, and then you just dehumanize everybody. Put a mask on like a dog. That's what you do when you hide your identity. You see my smile? I have a nice smile. I smile at people. What am I right now? I'm nothing. I'm nobody right now. What am I? I'm just another anonymous no one. So they're taking away your face. They're taking away your identity. They're taking away who you are. And what is that a step to? Is that a step to freedom? Oh, they're taking my face away and replacing me with artificial intelligence and mass forcing me to get vaccines because they really care about me and they want me to be free. No, they're demoralizing you. Then they're demasculizing you. Then they're splitting up the family. Then they're putting something over your face. Then they're taking away your identity, and they're not going to let you free. They're probably going to try to kill you at a certain point. And I'm not trying to scare people, but it's like, that's the next step when you completely don't even have an identity and you're such a pushover that it's like you're a chicken on a conveyor belt, Do you think the chickens on the conveyor belt know they're being slaughtered? Of course not, or else they'd run the other way. But they don't know because they're not very smart. So they just sit there with their heads, and then they get put in a blender, and then they get murdered. So, what do you think happened in World War I with the Bolshevik Revolution? You think people wanted to die? No, of course not. I'm sure at a certain point there was psychological manipulation. And then you have Russia, and then you have Germany and World War II. And you think, where do you think all this stuff came from? You think it just randomly happened? No, there were steps to it. And what they don't say about Germany as well is how did a crazy leader take over and go so crazy? They never explain the first part, because all that crap is happening again, and they never tell the full picture, where it's like Germany was in trillions of dollars of loans. They lost World War I. They're being starved by the rest of the thing. And when people get desperate, they look for desperate people. They look for people who are, crazier. So it's like, if you want to prevent that, you have to prevent that. But they're doing that. So the next step is going to be obvious. When you take away people's stuff, when everything gets shut down, when the banks are just dragging you dry, and when they, possibly debase and devalue the currency, the next thing that happens is not going to be freedom. There is no, well, I like Trump, so he did Operation Warp Speed to please the left. Like, you're going to get led to the slaughter. You're being genocided. So I'm not a slave, okay? If this is happening to me, I'm going out like a legend. I'm going out like a man. I'm not going out. I'm using my freedom. I'm using my privilege, my American privilege, to not be in the 8th step of communism where I'm in a gulag. I'm in a place where I'm able to say this comfortably and actually do way more than most of our ancestors. They had to hunt. They had to ride horses. Shit wasn't easy. Even this is not hard for me. People act like it's so scary, so hard. This is easy, okay? Real hard stuff is building a house out of wood and stuff. This is not hard. Everybody's just so soft and so weak and so ungrateful and just so scared. But that's going to lead to what we have right now. So it's like, I'm not doing this and repeating myself just to be like a person that's harping on something. I think we're being led to the slaughter. I know we're being led to the slaughter. What happens next after they take your face away and replace you with artificial intelligence and put out vaccine passports? Slavery. Slavery. Do you not want to be a slave? Then stop acting like one. If you act like a slave, you're going to be a slave. And that's what Kanye West was talking about. He said, slavery is a choice. And everybody got mad, especially the media, especially black entertainers, especially pseudo-intellectual white liberals. Oh my gosh, Kanye West. But what did he mean by slavery is a choice? Back in the day when there was slavery, people made choices. There were Africans who sold out Africans. There were people who made choices. There were people who got on the boat and thought they were going somewhere else. People made foolish decisions. People made bad decisions, and people made wicked decisions in every race. And that's how it happened. And what's happening now? You have the same people who got mad at Kanye West, the same people who said that he was crazy and horrible, are now promoting masks, muzzles, replacement of fans at NBA games with artificial intelligence. Does Damian Lillard, that doesn't spark something in Damian Lillard's head? He's like, oh man, there's nothing weird about this. It is weird, bro. They're replacing human beings with robots, and you have to wear a muzzle on your face, and you have to put a muzzle on your 3-year-old kid like she's a little dog. That's dehumanizing. That's slavery. This is, I can't go to work, but you can go to work. Amazon can grow, but your small business died. Do you know how many tens of thousands of family-owned businesses from Italian immigrants and people who worked their ass off for 100 years got bankrupted because of this? Way more than you want to imagine. This is human slavery. This is communism. These are the first steps of it. So if you don't step the F up now, you're going to get genocided. You're going to get enslaved. It's not maybe, it's definitely. It's not like a crazy thing 3 years ago. It's like, look around you. People are walking around with muzzles on their face, afraid to go anywhere, about to get in line to get a non-FDA approved injection, which is fine. And now they're going to try to put a passport. So you have to get it. How can they force you to get something that's not approved from a company that has no liability? It's like, eat this food. We don't know if you're allergic. It's like nuts are fine, but some people are allergic to nuts. It's the same thing with vaccines. People have adverse reactions. Everybody's body's not the same. They act like it's a one-size-fits-all drug because they don't have liability, so they don't give a shit if 1% or 0.1% or whatever it is or 2%. They don't care if you get hurt. They don't care if you die. They don't care if your skin turns red. They don't care if you have a heart attack. They don't care because they don't have liability. So it's the same thing with nuts. The government can't force feed you nuts. I would eat, I'm talking like almonds. I'm not, just so people don't think it's like a gay thing, but I'll eat, because then people are like, oh, I normally say he's going to eat nuts. See, I'm a step ahead of the game, but I would eat almonds, but some people might not want to eat almonds. The government doesn't have the right to force feed you almonds, and they don't have a right to force you to get an injection that they have no liability for, that they haven't even studied for that long, and they don't have long-term effects, and they can't do this. This is like a genocidal slavery overhaul. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to die for taking it. I'm sure you're going to be fine, but this whole year is just wreaking human control. When you can't go to the gym and there's an obesity epidemic, that's human slavery. They're hurting you. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want my family to be hurt. My family's hurting. My elders are hurting. My parents are hurting. Nobody likes this. Who's benefiting from this? Who's like, oh man, this is really ideal. I can't travel anywhere. If I go to Canada, they quarantine me like a slave in a government facility and it's mandatory. Who wants this? Who's okay with this? I don't understand, the backlash when I talk about this stuff. I don't want to hear it. Well, I don't care, okay? Because I'm not living this way. And we have a very limited time to do something about it. And doing something about it's not that hard. Just stop giving up and giving in. Do something. Make some sort of stand. When I walk around without a mask, most people don't say anything. I'm not going to mention stores and places because I don't want corporate to bother me at this point, but I've been in big corporate stores with no mask on and no one said anything. They're probably happy to see my face. Who wants to work 8 hours a day and not see any faces? And this is slavery, human slavery. This is not, it's a pandemic. You don't know what you're talking about now. Then when's it going to end? What's it based on? What are the metrics? What's a PCR test? Who invented it? How is it actually used? How many cycles? These people don't know anything. What asymptomatic cases? Is China counting them? Of course not. Why? Because counting asymptomatic cases with a PCR test is psychotic and anti-scientific. Such a joke. Grow Love Bear said the only actual man always talking about political issues is usually. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm not trying to act like I'm so manly. I'm just like, I can't do it. It's not in my DNA to like be a slave. I've never liked being mistreated. When I was younger, when kids mess with me, I ended it. It was over. And then they never did it again. I'm the nicest person in the world. I'll stand up for the nerds and people who are, being bullied. I always had everyone's back. But the second you lay a hand on me or trying to do you're going to learn quickly not to do it. And that's what this year is. It's people testing you. So just say no. I know it's harder for some people, but I'm trying to get through to a movement that's following somebody that's leading them to the slaughter. I like Trump. He did more than Justin Trudeau. He did more than Hillary Clinton maybe would have done. He did more than Gavin Newsom would have done. I appreciate what he did, but he's still putting us on a conveyor belt and he's still leading us to the slaughter. And at a certain point, someone needs to say what I'm saying. I say this and I poke at people, not to be mean. I'm poking, hoping that they listen to me, take what I said and repeat it. I don't have a copyright on this stuff. Read How to Lie with Statistics. Please read, Carrie Mullis's book or watch his videos. Learn about the PCR test and how it works. Learn about how they're testing. Learn about the asymptomatic cases and how they're actually calculating them, and please tell people. Because we can't keep talking about nothing because then nothing's going to happen. Someone said Trump was very deceiving. For sure. But and I don't keep talking about him for any other reason besides he's the leader of the freedom movement in the world and he's leading people in the wrong direction. So how is it going to stop? It's not. Someone said Fauci understands the PCR. I'm sure they do. I mean, at a certain point, these people just have never been held accountable. In other countries, people who do things get held accountable sometimes. In America, doesn't matter how much you lied. I mean, do I have to bring up this article of like Bayer? I'll just find, I'm just gonna let Morning Joe, because I don't feel like them coming at like getting a lawsuit or something. But let me see. Bayer Joe. I'm gonna find this thing. Morning Joe covered the Bayer thing. Let me see. I'm gonna play him. Like, these companies are not ethical, and when they don't get held accountable, I don't know why they would stop. Bayer. I gotta just search it. Hold on. Joe. I wonder if I'll be able to find it. Maybe not, but I'm overstaying my welcome. Is it Morning Joe or Scarborough? I guess I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, well. Scarborough. Oh, yeah, here it is. I found it. All right. This is Morning Joe Scarborough. He did a whole segment. I'm just going to play the audio where they were talking about Bayer getting caught with pills that they knew had HIV in it and they still sold it to countries. These are I'm supposed to bow down to these industries. Trump's trying to act like these are the most moral, ethical industries. Here, listen.
Appreciate you being on tonight. Thanks for the invitation, Joe. Okay, let's talk about the rat of the week. Why is Bayer Corporation the rat of the week? Internal documents show that after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the U.S. and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The medicine's called Factor 8. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children that have been born with an incurable disease. Hold on, Mike. So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer knew that this drug was infected with the AIDS virus. They yanked it from the market in America, and then they dumped it in markets overseas. They had to figure out a way, Joe, to make a profit on a product that they could not sell in America. So they made a huge profit. They dropped the product in Japan, Spain, and France. By the way, Joe, government officials in France that allowed that to happen actually had to go to prison for it. In America, not one corporate executive for this company has been indicted or even criminally investigated by our Justice Department.
So they had some sort of pill that had HIV or AIDS. I don't know if you guys could hear it very well. And they knew it was infected, so they sold it overseas. And overseas, they got held accountable. In America, they've never got held accountable. These are not ethical companies, and Bayer's not doing one of the jobs. The volume doesn't go up that much, but if you search Bayer Morning Joe, AIDS or HIV, you could find it. It's on YouTube. It's somewhere on Twitter. I apologize. The sound wasn't louder. So, what is Trump doing? I don't know, but I don't care. And everyone's like, well, he's the guy I like. So Operation Work. I mean, he's just doing it to police the left. That's not the game. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'll keep saying it until people learn it, because it's never going to end until people say no. They play this game, they do what they say, and then they move it again. All right. I got to go. I'm really going to go because I did want to finish a video before tonight. I'm kind of pushing it now, but I want to do a video on Kary Mullis. His book is really funny. I've been reading it a little bit every day, and he invented the PCR test. So I want to do an easy to digest, easy to share video of 4 things that people don't know about Kary Mullis. He's an interesting guy. He had a lot to say about Fauci. He had a lot to say about the PCR test he invented. He had stuff to say about LSD. And I just find him a fascinating person who really changed the game of DNA, science, chemistry. And, he's not alive to tell his tale. So I will share some of the information, and hopefully more people learn about this stuff, because the average person that says you're a conspiracy theorist, it's like they don't know anything. They're just following orders, but you're following orders from the media. Nobody thinks the media is ethical on the left or the right. So you're following the media. You're following the government. Fauci's a government agent more than he is a scientist. Yes, he's a scientist, but a scientist who was in government for 40 years and rose to the ranks of government. And these are the people. And then, you're going to act like you can't question Bayer or Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson & Johnson, who's in court right now for something else. Mary Posta said, my best friend almost died. She was excited, relieved. It makes me sad. Yeah, I'm reading that, Mary Posta. I just didn't want to read it aloud because they censor so much stuff. So if you guys have a story, people can read it, but I don't want to read your story because I don't know. If I knew it for sure, I try to stick to what I know. I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Amanda Coleman. Thank you, Veronica on Facebook. I appreciate y'all. I will have that video probably done tomorrow. I stayed longer, as always, than I wanted, but appreciate y'all. And I'm just trying to get the message across. I know it could come off harsh sometimes, but at a certain point, I'm just waiting for somebody to step up. And if it's not going to be the guy people think it is, then it's got to be people on an individual level. If everyone plays their part a little bit, just does a little bit, hopefully we can get back to normal sometime soon. But if you look at other countries, like that's a metric of where they would like to take us. And if you look at Europe and Canada, I mean, it's not getting better. It's like getting worse. Like they're quarantining. Go to Justin Trudeau's Twitter. You have to mandatory quarantine to go to Canada. This is every conspiracy theory of the last 40 years literally happening. And people just think like maybe it's going to go away in a week. I'm like, I don't know. I'm an optimistic guy, but I really think they don't want to stop doing this. And unless enough people, get over it. So we'll see. Someone said, can you share this? Yeah, of course. You could share it. It'll be here. It'll be on YouTube, and I will be back tomorrow. The God Bless hats, by the way, guys, like I said, they're for pre-sale. Thank you, everybody who's supporting. Pre-sale for a week, then we're going to buy them and ship them. I just want to tell you the difference between this hat and that hat. So this one's the original God Bless hat. They're the same company, really good company. They got a USA logo right there, really good quality. This one has like a metal thing here, and it's kind of hard to adjust. I like these hats, but some people don't like them because they're hard to adjust. It's really preference. These ones are a little smaller. These ones are a little bit bigger, not much bigger. It's pretty much the same hat, but you can see it's a little bit bigger, I think. And the back, same company, but it's Velcro. So I think it's easier. If you have a big head, like my buddy who's my size was like, dude, I don't like the smaller hats because my head's too big or something. I was like, fits my head, but I hear what you're saying. These ones are a little bigger. So same company though. It's really just preference, but same company, almost identical quality. This part's a little harder. I think it's soft here. I don't know if that's because that's new and that's old, but same company. I love the company, so I'm guessing that these are going to be great. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Dreamwear.com. I got shirts. I got tanks, and I'll have that video tomorrow, hopefully, of Kerry Mullis, because it's you got to learn about this guy. And I think before I end, I'm trying to get this message out because, I appreciate what DeSantis is doing, but until people get to the root of what's going on, we can't live in a society that's testing so much. They're testing, using a PCR test. And the inventor said that's not how it's used. I'm not trying to start a theory. It's not meant to be used that way. And it's a abuse really of what a PCR test is. So if they never stop doing that, I don't think this thing's ever going to end. Some politician or some leader on television or someone, if not them, I'll just keep saying it, but they need to learn what the tests are and get to the bottom of it. Like, sometimes Rand Paul does, but I'm like, it's been a year now. And I'm like, man, if they're not going to say it, I'll say it, but you get it. God bless you guys. I appreciate you. And I'll be back soon.